We are live. We are live. Welcome to A VO's Journey. My name is Anthony Pica. This show is all about helping the new and upcoming voiceover artists grow their business and sidestep all of the crazy things that I seem to step on. Today is Tuesday, the 3rd of March. Can you believe that? It is the 3rd of March already. I'm blown away. I'm just pretty much blown away. But I have a great show for you today. We are going to be going over some voice acting tips, how to analyze a script. And I really think you're going to enjoy this episode. I had an amazing session this morning, a coaching session with one of my VO students, and it was one of the better sessions that I've had with any of my students. And, it kind of inspired me to share some of this today with some voice acting tips. We were going over voice acting, and I think this would be a great time to discuss how to dive in and analyze a script. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I want to take a moment to welcome everybody coming in from YouTube and Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. Thank you for being here. I know Tuesday is one of those days where we're like, hey, Monday's over. We made it through, but now the rest of the week is ahead of us. So hopefully you're having a good week and business is good. If it's not, that's okay too. This might be just what you need to kickstart your business. All right, so we're going to be talking about analyzing a script. And, as a voice actor, we are given all kinds of different types of copy and sometimes very minimal instructions, and we're expected to bring it to life, give something where nothing exists. And a lot of times, most of the times, probably all the times pretty much, a script is never written for us. It might be occasionally, but most of the time it's not. It's written for someone, it's written by the author as if the author was saying it in their head. And that's if the author was even saying it in their head, or if it was written to just put a whole bunch of information out there or something. So we not only have to take copy and make it come alive, but we have to take words that are not in our own cadence and our own way of saying it. We have to take them and create something that is really special for someone to listen to. And a way to do this is to analyze a script and get in the habit of knowing exactly how to analyze it, what to do. So that's what we're going to kind of go over today. We're going to be talking about that. I want to dive into this. And I know on Instagram, you guys aren't going to be able to see this, but over on everywhere else, we're going to go ahead and flip over to this screen. And as you can see on the screen right now, we've got some sample copy from the BMW website. And we're going to go through this, and I'm going to talk to you about how to analyze a script and using this copy that we have up on the screen. It's a couple of paragraphs, and we have some questions. So what I like to do is when I first start working on a script, I like to, first ask myself a few questions to give me a basis to work off of, right? How to approach this, as opposed to just randomly start reading. Okay, how do I, who is this for? We're gonna answer these questions. So the first question I have on here is, what style of voiceover is this? And I kind of put over on the side, if you look down here, the styles. There's more, right? But this is kind of the ones I put. There's video narration, audiobook, podcast, IVR, dubbing, impersonation, radio, TV, video game, e-learning, corporate narration. So if you read through this copy real quickly, you can tell that this really kind of falls under the e-learning / maybe corporate narration. And those are very closely related in my opinion. But I do think on this particular one, this leans more towards e-learning. It's only 2 paragraphs. There would be a lot more to this. Of course, because it's going to go into describing the fuel cell electric vehicle down at the bottom and what a hydrogen engine is. But the important thing here is that, we identify that it's an e-learning script. And it's important to identify what style this is in, because that then in turn tells us what we should be approaching, how we should be approaching it, which leads us to our next question. And the next question we're going to ask is, who is our audience? We always need to ask, who the audience is. It's super important to ask who the audience is. Because again, if your audience is, like, perfect example, if your audience is a bunch of 12-year-olds, you're going to talk differently than you would to a room full of CEOs, right? They're just different. Or if you're talking to millennials or you're talking to baby boomers, right? It's important. Or if you're talking to people in different industries, right? White collar, blue collar, these different style, the audience is so important. So for this, we need to choose an audience. And, I really believe that with this audience, this would be definitely probably a group of technicians, something to, maybe people aspiring to be a part of BMW, or this could actually be BMW's audience. And on their website, this is really kind of who that audience is actually. It's the site, it's them telling their clients, the people who are interested in this stuff, right? And that's an important note, right? People who are interested in learning more about alternative fuel sources, learning more about these types of new ways, future ways to save the environment, and have cleaner footprint. That's an audience. That's a very specific audience. So these people are going to be very serious about this, as you know what I mean? They're going to be very serious about this topic. And as we explain it, we need to remember that. Okay, we need to remember that. So because that then goes into tells us what tone we should use. So the next question we're going to ask is, what tone should we use? And if you look on here, I went ahead and placed some tones. We have conversational, angry, awkward, casual, cute, emotional, funny, sarcastic, sexy, authoritative, corporate, energetic, gritty, scary. So for me, I mean, and you could go on and on, right, with tones and stuff. And then there's adjectives that describe those within those tones, right? But for me, this is definitely going to be authoritative. And I think of authoritative as not something that is overbearing or, something that, we're going to say as a, as a totalitarian type of voice, but more of a place of confidence. And that probably could be, another characteristic would be confident. But authoritative, we need to say this script, right? It's an e-learning script. It's a script that's teaching. So we are the teacher. We always want to come from the point where we are the one who is certain about the knowledge we are sharing, unless the copy tells us something differently, like as we pose a question. But we are authoritative. We are the authority in this area as we are talking and we are telling it, okay? Then it's also probably more in a corporate style nature. So when I think of corporate and I think of that as a tone or the corporate tone, I think of something very professional, something that I'm going to speak clearly. I'm not going to, try to cut off my ends or be more of a hip or upbeat type of thing. It's going to be professional. But at the same time, I know I want to be conversational because I know from my experience, it's one of those things where I want to come across as being a real person still, okay? A real person, but a person who is an authority on this topic and is also a professional, okay, from, a corporate standpoint. So, as we look at tones, I think it's easy to say one tone is everything, but it's not. I think there's multiple tones that can go together. And I think in this one, for me, I've identified, now, again, these are just the ones I put down, but, I've identified authoritative, corporate, and conversational. What's funny is as we go through this, imagine if you would read this with some of the other ones. And that's a fun exercise to actually look at this copy and say, okay, well, what if I was to do it sarcastic and awkward? You know what I mean? How would that sound? And it's a fun way to push yourself to become better at acting and voice acting, is to try out new things. And if you listen back to it and you say, well, that really doesn't really sound like that, or you get someone else to listen to it, it really does help you. All right. So anyway, so we've identified what style voiceover this is, right? This is an e-learning, and I'm going to say e-learning / corporate narration. Okay. So we know this is of a professional nature. All right. Then we talked about who the audience was. I like that. John, what's up, my man? John said BMW staff could be, but I do, from the way they've put it on the site, like I said, I think it's really meant for people who are interested and taking our carbon footprint, and they want to find and support alternative fuel sources and support companies who are really working towards that. So it's people who are taking it seriously. You know what I mean? That they are the audience here. So it's important that we identify the audience. And then we talked about the tone, right? What tones we should be using. And we went over the tones for this particular one. We've chosen authoritative, corporate, and in a conversational manner. And then at the last time, will a lead-in help? So I like lead-ins. What a lead-in for me is when you are trying to get a certain feel, especially when you're trying to read something conversationally or something that's not as much of a, that's not as, in a world, kind of this big booming thing, but more trying to get a certain mood other than what your standard deferral mood is. You know what I'm talking about? Like that standard thing when you step up to a mic and the way you do all your voiceovers. A lead-in is words you say before you start actually saying the words. So the copy here, we say fewer pollutants, less noise, right? So a lead-in would be, hey everybody, I'm going to tell you about fewer pollutants, less noise. See, so I had a bunch of words that I said before I actually started recording it. And what happens is, and by the way, you can actually record those words and just cut them out later. It's just a great way, I think, to get you starting to talk in a manner in which it's not so robotic, because a lot of times we're forced to talk a certain way right off the gate, and it's just very unnatural. It's not how we would normally talk. Like we stand up in front of people, we're not, we're going to say, hey, everybody, how are you doing? We're going to say something like that, and it helps us lead into what we're actually saying. Okay, so we talked about authoritative, corporate, and conversational. So as we're going to read this, I'm going to read this to you, okay, and I'm going to use these things. I'm going to try to talk through them. And by the way, and I made an authoritative tone course. And, in that course, we talk about there's some things that identify as an authoritative tone, right? From a place of confidence, that means we are sure about what we're saying. We have the knowledge and we are absolutely positive that what we are saying is true, and we believe it. So when we believe something, it becomes a assured statement, meaning that we're going to end down usually at the end of the sentences because we're making a statement. We are sure about what we're saying. Does that make sense? So as I go through this, I want to try to do a couple things. I want to try, and this is to help you as well. I'm going to go through this first, and I want to try to read this a couple different ways. One way, I want to try to make sure that when I start to read this, I'm only going to pause, or I should only pause where there is a period, where there is a comma. Okay, now there's a couple dashes in here, and I'll do maybe a slight little pause there. But the rest of it, my goal is just to continue reading the script from the beginning of a sentence to the end of a sentence. Sometimes we can get in the habit of not doing that. So I'm going to try to do it from an authoritative manner in which I am very sure about this, but also in a corporate sense to where I'm going to be a lot more, I'm going to be professional. And one thing you noticed, what I'm going to do that is I'm going to actually boost my, I'm going to try to make sure that my posture, I'm sitting up straight. Now, of course, I'm not in my booth recording. I would be standing doing this, but a lot of people sit down and that's fine too. I'm going to make sure my posture is good. I'm going to kind of get my air of a professionalism about me. You know what I mean? My head's going to be up and so forth. So this is a great way to bring out that in the inner emotion through your outward physiology. Changing your outward physiology helps you, really bring out what you're trying to bring out. So at that point, I'm going to go ahead and use those things. And conversationally, I'm going to try to use maybe a lead-in so that I can make sure that as I start talking this, I'm really going to sound more conversational with it. I'm not going to be, really stuffy. Okay? All right, so let me just give it a shot. And here we go. So I'm going to say, all right, everybody, fewer pollutants, less noise. They are among many great hopes for Sorry, I messed up already. Let's try again. These are among the many great hopes for electricity-powered vehicles. When it comes to electromobility, most people think of vehicles with a large battery that you charge from a wall outlet. Yet there is another propulsion technology that traffic experts are expecting a lot from, including an alternative to log charging times. The technology in question is the hydrogen engine, also known as the fuel cell electric vehicle, or FCEV. Before we discuss the pros and cons of hydrogen fuel cell cars, as well as the costs and risks involved, we'll first briefly outline how this technology works. Now, if you notice, now, of course, I had a couple mess ups there, but trying to make sure we end each one towards each sentence down, trying to make sure that I am relating a message as if I'm teaching you, right? And if you say fewer pollutants, less noise, these are among the, and I could say this a little more, a little more umph too, right? Because you could say, fewer pollutants, less noise. These are among the many great hopes for electricity-powered vehicles. When it comes to electromobility, most people think of vehicles with, now, if you see every sentence, every paragraph has a structure to it as well. Right? We learned this back in grade school, right? As a beginning, a middle, and an end. Things go up, they come down, right? There's when we first start a paragraph, there is that we have the statement saying what we believe in. Then we have the supporting sentences. Then we have the conclusion. That's kind of how they go. And especially when we're doing in long form narration like this, okay, that's usually how these things are written. That's just the way we do it. Okay, so as we look at this, we're going to say fewer pollutants, less noise. I mean, that's something that we're trying to do. That is the point of all of this. Fewer pollutants, less noise. These are among the many great hopes for electricity-powered vehicles. I mean, that's right. We know that. That's what we are sure of that statement. Now, as we go into the next, we're going to start talking about us being sure of that statement. So these are going to be a lot more conversational as opposed to that first thing where fewer pollutants, less noise. These are among the many great hopes for electrically powered vehicles. I mean, that is a statement. Then we're going to go into a little bit lighter stuff, right? When it comes to electric mobility, most people think of vehicles with a large battery that you charge from a wall outlet. Yet there is another propulsion technology that traffic experts are expecting a lot from, including an alternative to long charging times. Do you see? So it begins to be more conversational, because I'm starting to give you a sense of why or what I'm going to be telling you about fewer pollutants and less noise and how we can accomplish these hopes. Okay? Then we go into the next one. The technology in question is the hydrogen engine, also known as the fuel cell electric vehicle, or FCEV. Before we discuss the pros and cons of hydrogen fuel cell cars, as well as the costs and risks involved, we'll first briefly outline this technology, or how this technology works. So again, we start at the beginning of that paragraph for certain, and as we move through, we change it to more conversational, more me teaching you. Okay? I hope that helps, and I hope that gives you kind of a sense of, now this is one piece of copy in a world of unlimited copy and unlimited different styles and tones and ways to put them together. Okay, but if you noticed, the way I tried to speak this was a lot more of an authoritative, corporate, from a teacher standpoint. And if you focus your mind on the right place, by trying to imagine that you are actually teaching someone, that you're trying to, and we've all had experience teaching someone something, okay? Whether it was at work, whether it was our children, whether it was a friend or a parent or a spouse or somebody, okay? A colleague, we've had experience teaching something. And when we're teaching something, okay, we have moments where we are sure about something. We have moments where we create a sense of, of context to what we are sure about, and then we have the closing argument. And if you follow that structure, if you get that into your mind, you can begin to read, you can begin to create a story out of words that you've never read before, you're not familiar with, you can really, really turn your cold reading into magic because you are aware of the sentence structure. And by the way, this works for nonfiction audiobooks as well. Works very great. So I hope that this really has helped, and you should be able to go back and go over this and everything because this is going to be recorded. But, and I know that, again, over on Instagram you couldn't see, but I think this will help you. And ask this about everything. And by the way, just because you're doing maybe short form narration doesn't mean that you should not apply these. You definitely should. I think about, imagine if this was, it'd be fun. Let's play around with this. Imagine if this was a video narration, because this very well could be a video narration, right? So maybe the style is a video narration, and maybe this is more of a casual and, maybe a casual but energetic type of piece, So if I was to do that, when you think about video narration, we like to think about the idea that the video is the spotlight, not us. We are backup to the images and the video footage. So we don't want to be overbearing. Okay. So if we were to do that, do video narration, but I'm going to be doing conversational as well as energetic. So if I was to do that, I'm going to think of, this is an exciting time. This is an exciting time. Sorry, I hit the mic. This is an exciting time to express this, right? I'm getting myself into a manner at which I can feel that excitement. Before, when I was corporate, I was up straight. I was, my facial expressions, I kind of have a little downward movement of my eyebrows, the little ones that I have. And, my shoulders are back and I'm discussing something. But if I'm energetic, I'm going to be, I get big, I get small, I move around a lot. So if I say this in a video narration sense, I'm going to fewer pollutants, less noise. These are among the many great hopes for electrically powered vehicles. When it comes to electric mobility, most people think of vehicles with a large battery that you charge from a wall outlet. Yet there is another propulsion technology that traffic experts are expecting a lot from, including an alternative to long charging times. The technology in question is the hydrogen engine, also known as the fuel cell electric vehicle, or FCEV. In my mind, I'm seeing the picture of the car coming up, right? So I'm narrating that picture in my mind. Who cares what the actual video footage would be unless it's given to you and you're supposed to link it. But I'm saying the idea here is for you to sound like you are actually narrating that video footage, all right? Then we say, now before we discuss the pros and cons of hydrogen fuel cell cars, as well as the costs and risks involved, we'll first briefly outline how this technology works. I'm imagining in my mind, all right, a list or something popping up on the screen. Okay, do you see? So that was a lot more energetic, tried to be less authoritative or corporate sounding, but more conversational without that staunchiness behind it. Okay, whether I succeeded or not, in this particular context, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is that for you, it's going to bring out different ways of reading that you can offer people. And then you can put in your demos, you can put in your samples. And then when you're working with someone, you can offer that to them when they say, hey, I want you to do this, or hey, I want you to do that. Or heaven forbid, which happens to most of us, we get a script with no directions, but one or two, right? It helps to go through and take all this information because it gives you context. It's the same thing with building a character on a stage. A lot of times you get a script, and there might be one or two directions, but everything that you get, you have to infer from the words that are in there. And a lot of times there might not be much at all about someone's past or giving context to a real person. I mean, we are the sum, right? We are the sum of all of our experiences. So if you think about that, taking that and then just reading something without having any consideration to any of that, I mean, it's not going to give something very realistic, or it's not going to give something interesting to watch. So we have to treat all copy that way as well. And as you get better at it, it's not going to take you as long because you'll start to have your own little bag of tricks and your own ways to go through and skip all of the little parts that takes a long time. But at first you got to practice and you got to do this. And it really brings out a great performance. Remember, we're storytellers. We're telling a story. And a story is not always about, the stories we tell aren't always at face value. And I think this gets mixed up, and I know I'm getting off topic here. Well, I'm not. I'm going to switch over here. The stories we tell, when you hear people say, hey, we're storytellers, and be like, yeah, I get that. I'm a storyteller, but you gave me a script that there's no story there. You're just, I'm just regurgitating this information about a product. But see, that's the trick. That's the the blanket or over your face, or the wool that's pulled over people's eyes. There is always a story behind what we are saying, even if what we are saying isn't directly telling a story. The words, the point of that piece is part of a story, because it might be just a small part of the story. So then we are a small piece of that story. And it's important for us to know and be able to relate that by how we say it. Because how we say something is just as important as what we say. In fact, more important. I like to use the analogy of I love you, right? You can say, I love you. I can say, I love you. Or I can say, I love you. Or I can say, I love you. Those are three different ways to say I love you, right? But they mean three different things. The first I love you is I love you. Well, that doesn't really sound much like I love you. It sounds like I'm probably being sarcastic, like I love you, right? I'm being sarcastic. I don't really feel that way right now. I'm not that very happy with you. Yet I said the words I love you, right? Then if I said to you, I love you, it could be more of like a friendly, goofy kind of way of saying I love you. All right. And if we always tell our spouses or our children, say, I love you, the most real I love yous are, I love you. They're very simple, and I love you. They're not over the top. It's not overbearing. Okay. It's not too much. It's more sincere, which is what we're all trying to do. Less is more. But do you see the context of three different ways to say three words that mean three different things for three different types of people? That's the power that we have. So practicing these things should help you and make you think more about your delivery. Because in the end, we all have different voices, but what really separates us apart from everyone else is how well we tell the story, how well we say those words. Okay, the uniqueness and the manner in which the message we deliver. Okay, you guys, I hope this helps out. Let's see. I know there's not a lot of comments because I've been just going on and on and on. So I appreciate appreciate you guys being here. And I know we've got some people over on Instagram. Thank you guys for being here. And well, thank you. I really appreciate it. MC Voiceover says, really appreciate your videos. Thank you. Thank you very much. And we've got John over on YouTube. Thank you for being here, John. We've got, is it Tania? Good. Thank you, Tania. I hope I said that right. Good information. I'm looking at several scripts for audition right now. Very helpful and timely info. Thanks. You bet. You bet. Absolutely. Well, you guys, I really appreciate your time today. I hope this helped. Please, if you get an opportunity, if you haven't done so yet, subscribe, like, share, retweet, all that jazz. I really would appreciate it. And thank you. As always, good luck, and I will see you tomorrow. All right? Goodbye. See you guys later.